Good afternoon. My name is Gary.
My name is Eve.
And we are Newbies in a Newmar. We've now been 10 days in our Newmar. I've said it before, we've never been camping before, we've never driven a rig like this before, we've never done anything like this before, ever. So we thought we would chronicle what our experiences were so people can see our good, bad, and ugly. And it's been a pretty ugly trip, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Yeah. We have seen every kind of inclement weather we could possibly see. We had rain when we picked it up, rain when we brought it over here to get used to what it is and what it's like to be in here. And this is a nice little camping area. And then the day after we picked it up, we had 10 inches of snow. That was fun, wasn't it? We had 10 inches of snow. And we were petrified. We didn't know what this thing would do with all that snow. We didn't know if we were going to freeze to death. We didn't know if it was going to leak through anything. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's pouring rain right now. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But this coach did wonderfully. We kept nice and toasty warm. Nothing leaked. And we just had a very comfortable time inside the coach. Couldn't go outside the coach very much except to take Bandit out to do her business, but that's what we did. And then 2 days later we went to Ohio for driving instruction. And how could you best describe the driving?
Slightly disastrous.
Yeah.
I got a full day of driving in and did very well. We went up to a state park, I think it was called Burr Oak, and it was tight up there, and when we got up to the end of the road there were slips for the campers in RVs that on both sides had fairly soggy grass. The instructor asked me if I'd like to back up, and I said no. The next day was Gary's turn at driving, and we took pretty much the same route, which I thought was a bit intense for a newbie. There were hairpin turns and sharp turns, and it was difficult. And then Gary can explain his situation.
I got stuck. He took us to the same place, and of course I'm a man. And he said, "Do you want to try and park over here in these things?" Sure, let's go. So we went over there, and the areas for the RV were about at max 30 feet, while our rig is 43. Mud on both sides. He takes us in, and he tells me to line up my axle 8 feet in front of the entrance. I said, "I can't see." He said, just eyeball it. So I eyeballed it. He didn't tell me to go out and look. He didn't go out and look. We had no spotter, which I thought was a little odd. But he kept saying, I'm going to teach you how to back up like a trucker. So I figured he must know what he's doing. So he got me up there, and then he says, turn it, turn it, turn it, turn it, turn it. And I turned it, turned it, turned it, turned it, turned it. He said, back up. I backed up, and there we sat, perpendicular to the road, making a beautiful T for Easter. It looked like a cross from the sky, I'm sure. And there we were. A good neighbor next door who was already parked there came over and tried his best to get us out of that mess. Couldn't do it. We then called AAA. AAA came out, and they looked at where we were, and they said, we can't do it. So then we had to call this big rig, which came out, and they weren't sure how to do it, but they got us out. No harm to the coach or anything else. It just got us out. He never should have got us there in the first place. He was very apologetic. He's called me several times since then. He tried to friend me on Facebook. He's a nice guy. I like him as a person. But I'm not convinced he should be a driving instructor, because he never showed us how to back up using a spotter. He never showed us how to use cones to judge the things he was saying that we should be judging. We've both driven for one day. Anyway, enough with that. It's online. You can see it. We got back to the campsite there, did our thing, left, and then coming back across here, we saw there were wind advisories. 40-mile-an-hour to 50-mile-an-hour winds. I could feel something tugging at the coach. Nothing serious, but I could feel it, and I could see some of the trucks bouncing back and forth, but I didn't know if they were just trying to avoid potholes or what. I kept asking my wife, can you see trees blowing or anything? And when you're driving, you can't really see that. But we pulled into a rest site, and when we pulled in, when you look over at the bushes and the trees, you can see they're really bending in the wind. So we were in a really high wind situation, which is something you want to avoid in these rigs, because they're big, they're boxy, they look like a big shoebox, and the side of them is like a big sail. The wind hits it and it just pushes it to the side. I didn't really feel it that much. And that's because, thunder, that's because this coach has a proprietary thing called Comfort Drive. And that Comfort Drive, I can tell you, works. Because it wasn't hard to keep this thing on the road. Like I said, I could feel it tug a little bit, but that was it. I didn't have any trouble keeping it on the road. I showed my wife that, not that I should or would, but I could even steer it with one finger, even with the wind. I did that to show her I could do it. I didn't do it for very long. So I want to talk a little bit about the coach. Because this is Newbies and a Newmar, we should talk about the Newmar a little bit. Again, it's only been 10 days. We had done over a year's worth of study on what kind of coach to get or what coach to get. We had it narrowed down to a Tiffin, an Integra Anthem, or a Newmar Dutch Star. We took the Tiffin out right away because they're built in Alabama, and we live in Chicago, and we thought if there was any reason that we had to go to the factory to have something fixed, Alabama was not in our normal realm of places that we would be going. But Indiana would, which is where Integra and Newmar are located. We looked at the Integra. It had all these bells and whistles. We both really liked it. We had talked to a salesman about buying one. The salesman quit. And then I read that Integra and Thor, that owns Integra, was going to have this big expansion. And having been in manufacturing, that gave me a great deal of pause. Because anytime there's a big manufacturing expansion, there's some kind of troubles along the way. Now, in fact, that may not have affected the Integra line at all, but I didn't know, and I wasn't going to take that chance. So then we went down to talk to a Newmar dealer, and people that we know who have Newmars have nothing bad to say about them whatsoever. A couple of them have had multiple Newmars. So I had a figure in mind. We went down. He gave us a figure. His first figure was lower than the figure I had in mind. That's why you shop in December. And then he dropped even a little bit more. And we ordered the unit with the idea that, there's more thunder, with the idea that it was going to be delivered in May. So we could avoid all the bad weather in April and March. Comes in early. I don't want it just sitting on the lasso. We came down to pick it up, and in fact, we hit every piece of bad weather you can think of. Today, we're stuck inside because we have these amazing thunderstorms passing through, and they've been going through since last night. You have a little break. It's like a lake out here right now, and we don't dare go outside. But inside, we're warm. We've got 2 TVs inside we can look at. We've got a microwave convection oven that works really great. We have water. We have heat. Our bed is more comfortable here than our bed at home. Correct?
Correct.
Correct. So, do you have anything you want to say about the coach at all?
It's been great. The only thing that I have to say about it has nothing to do with the coach. It has to do with after we got back here to Indiana from Ohio and that rather frightening driving lesson, there was some damage to the outside of the coach, and I thought, geez, 10 days and we already have some damage to the coach. One of the basement doors is poking open a little bit and there's a scratch, and so that's the only...
Yeah, it closes okay, but one of the two of us, when we were on these really tight turning roads, hit something on the right-hand side, and it's not going to be much to fix it, but that's not Newmar's fault. It's her fault. I didn't do it. It's her fault. I think you heard that one.
It must have been me. But
no, I don't think it was. I think it was definitely me.
But the coach itself has been great, and things that I was worried about, not to give you too much information, I was deathly afraid of the toilet and using the toilet, and that has not been an issue at all. And dumping of the black water has not been an issue at all, even though we haven't figured out how to use the macerator hose yet. The Rhinoflex has been great, and everything works. There's no problem with any of the appliances, no problems with the doors. There are a few things that we'd like to have tweaked a little bit, but
it took us 2 days to figure out how the recliners worked. And at first I said, boy, this is really uncomfortable. And then when I figured out how it works, our dog that likes to sit on my lap anyhow, I recline down, and now she comes up and she just lays on my chest and goes to sleep. I do want to show one thing that Eve did that I think is really good, and that is she's built a book, or made a book, about newbies in a Newmar, and these horrible pictures on the front side of me and everything. But she's got everything in here about our journey and our itineraries. She just did a great job, and what I'm trying to get her to do now is redo it so that we can make them and either sell them or put them online so people can download them or whatever. Geez, I wish I hadn't said that, because we're really not in this for the money at all. We're not. We are now technically creators for YouTube, but we don't care anything about making any money. So I'm not. A lot of people who are out here want people to send them money and things for their channel. We don't want anybody to send us any money, and we don't want any money from YouTube. We're doing this solely because we want people to see what two people who have no business doing this in the first place, how they fare. If we do well, then it shows other people that anybody can do it. If we don't do well, that should make people take a pause. And I think that's enough for today. We'll be back on soon. I'm very proud of my wife because she has a tendency to be camera shy. I don't know why. She looks better than I do on camera. So the only one that right now is not in the picture is our pup, and she's down here. And of all three of us who have adapted the best, it was the one we thought would have the hardest time adapting, and that's our dog. Our neurotic dog has been marvelous on this trip, and she is really enjoying it. The only one of the three that's really enjoying this trip, but she's not learning as much either. So that's it for today. I hope this isn't too long. See you soon.